Hi, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and today I wanted to do a quick little, a little bit of charm casting just to kind of bring that back into the forefront since I just had some time to do a shorter video. So I thought this would be kind of fun to pull this out. Now I did want to show you, and I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this, but I found this tray. It's like a wooden tray that has a little handle on one end, and it had on the back of it like a picture frame holder so that you could hang this on the wall. And this I got on clearance at Hobby Lobby, but they had things like it in the section of like frames, and they had like, it's for making like memory boards. So it is the perfect size to fit a piece of scrapbook paper, which I quite love, because when I've been using charm casting, I will either do it blank like this in it, and it's got a nice little lip. It's about that deep. So it's not so deep that it casts too much of a shadow, but it also does stop things from really just flying everywhere, because apparently I'm a very vicious thrower. But I really, really love that it holds a piece of scrapbook paper, because I use a lot of scrapbook paper for doing pictures of the day. And so, you know, even if you just want to cast it on a plain piece of scrapbook paper, just to sort of get into the spirit of the season, like this is kind of fallish, or just for pretty factor. You know, I said in another video, people respond to pretty. People like things to look nice. I like things to look nice. And so you can, you know, swap in and out these, you know, if you're just doing it plain, you can swap in and out different scrapbook pages just for aesthetics purpose alone. Although I will be honest that when I'm doing a plain throwing, I do like it on the black because everything stands out really well. Now, the other reason, and the main reason I really like this is that, and I'm going to make more of these, but I made a couple inserts to go in here. Now, again, this is plain scrapbook paper, and I've just gridded out a grand tableau with the numbers and the house names right on it. Now, this was a little bit of a dark paper, so I don't think the names and things are going to show up quite so well for you. I'll probably at some point remake this into a bit of a lighter paper, but I still do like it, and I use it, and so then I can cast it, and I'm going to show you each one of these, the ways that I use it. So that's a grand tableau. And then I have this other one that I was playing around with, and just seeing what aspects I would like, because what I really wanted was the aspects of the elements. So the things that fall in the different corners of the elements gives us information about the elements. You know that that's something I really like, having access to information, because it covers all aspects of your life that way. I also did add a 3 sort of layer spiral that's kind of based on the Wildwood Tarot's wheel that has sort of the heart and sort of the super conscious idea. Then we have the inner human area, which would kind of be the subconscious, and then we have the outer conscious area. So I do also like those aspects, which can either be just focusing on those and ignoring the corners, or, you know, in the realm of air, these particular areas. It can just give some more information. So those are the 2 that I have made up grid-wise, and I'm sure, you know, there's all different ways, grids and things that you could do. So I was just really excited because I was using, now I have a black box that keeps my scrapbook paper. I don't scrapbook, I just really do use it for cards of the day and stuff. But I was using the lid, which is nice, but because it's made to hold scrapbook paper that sometimes has tags on it and things, it's actually bigger than the piece of regular scrapbook paper, and it worked fine. I would just stick it in the middle, and you know, it worked perfectly fine. But when I found this on clearance, I'm like, this is just perfect. And sold, I think I got it, I want to say I got it for like $6 on clearance. I should have looked to see what it was regular, but you know, those places like Michael's and Hobby Lobby and Joann Fabrics, you can always get coupons for 40% off, 50% off. So it's not too difficult to get those good deals. So I'm just going to do a quick cast on the black board just so that you can kind of see how that is. And I'm actually going to do this one for myself because yesterday was a crazy day. I really overextended my schedule, and I don't generally do this. I generally have a pretty, because I work from home, I have the ability obviously to sort of schedule myself and work things in a way that's, you know, flows well and all. But for whatever reason, yesterday, the combination of, you know, my bill paying work and my readings work and Truth and Story just kind of work that, you know, you do to keep that running just got overwhelming. And so I ended up, you know, doing so many things that I didn't get very much done, if you know if you know what I mean. And now it is already about 1:15. I have done much better today, but I just kind of want to do a little bit of touch bases on kind of moving forward and getting myself back on track. So I know this is very loud, but I'm just going to give this a real good shake. And I have sort of like this cardboard container that, again, you can get at Michael's or Joann's or Hobby Lobby. So I'm just going to give that I like it because there's a lot of room to really, because I have different size things and I really like to be able to shake it. And I like that it's not like a hard plastic or glass or something where it's really going to bang around in there. Okay, so then I just toss it. I don't, you know, worry too much about things, just in terms of getting a specific thing going on. Now, right away, right away I notice, which this is quite appropriate. Here is my significator card over here, and I know this is going to be, and I will keep calling them cards half the time. I just do. I'm sorry. I know that this is going to be, I wonder if I can play around zooming a little bit. But right here, we have my significator, which is a silhouette of a girl. And we have the ring, or the idea of commitments here. And then right in the middle of that is my mouse, basically the concept of a Lenormand mouse card, certain things getting eaten away at. So this is certainly appropriate because there's that sense of, for me, and it's all on top of me. See, if you see that, it's kind of getting on top of me. I'm not on top of it. I don't really feel like I'm controlling that well. And so that's, you know, right there, I think is very important, little touch base here. Kind of idea. I also have clouds in proximity here, and we also have clouds kind of, we have this sort of right here, I kind of think of these little bundles as 3-card things. So we have, this is kind of like the bear, right? And we have the masks that I found, and I'm going to pick this up just to show you because how cute is this? Look at that. I love that. So we have sort of masks, the masks that we wear, and that's flipped upside down. I just feel like, yeah, I'm wearing too many masks, or, you know, not masks, but, you know, just trying to do too much. And it's connected with the clouds, you know, that all is quite apt. So my strength, right, is kind of being undermined, I think, by my trying to wear too many hats at one time in one day. And I need to order. And again, generally I do. It's actually something I'm pretty good at, but it just got out from underneath me. And so then we have the clouds here, and the clouds are kind of, this end I kind of think of as the light side of the clouds, and this where the smoke would come out of the genie bottle is sort of more the darker aspect. So I do have that coming at the rider, so a message about, you know, defensiveness, and the defensiveness is kind of my porcupine. This is a little teeny porcupine. I know I shouldn't pick these up, and I wouldn't normally do this, but because this is sort of a teaching. Look at that little porcupine. This is not a bad card from or charm for me. The porcupine is about taking care of yourself, about being in defense. You think about a porcupine kind of as using its quills to defend itself. So I need to take better care of my schedule because I get really out of whack. I don't sleep. I wish I didn't. I didn't get to sleep till probably 6 in the morning, which is not good or healthy. And so that's sort of, I think I'm totally now out of, yeah. You guys haven't been able to see that. So there's this little set here that goes, I was kind of following this line with the clouds and this sort of rider message to take better care of myself. That's kind of the key to my good luck and good fortune, feeling good about things when I'm taking care of myself. So I kind of have that little line. So you kind of look for these things that that start to just kind of pop out at you. And I generally like starting with the significator card is quite an apt way to do that. Now I do like over here, I found these little dice, and I was looking for little dice that weren't so big, and I found them at Barnes & Noble's. They had these little tiny things of Farkle. I used to have a big set of Farkle, but this is like a little pocket Farkle, and so inside of that are 5 little dice like this, and you can pick different colors. So I was able to get those. And I do like that we have 6, 7, 8, 9. A 9 is a sense of completion. That's that kind of ending of a cycle and then starting a new cycle over kind of a feeling. 3 is also my number, and this is a 3 by 3. 3 is a number of balance for me. So just for me popping out in this particular reading, again, it's that sort of, okay, regain your balance. It's time, get your footing back under you and regain your balance. Now, we have this little group right here. Oops. There we go. We have this little group right here. See, these little groupings always really stick out to me. And here we have the sun that's turned over, and we have the garden and the clock tower. So the garden is about social things and that sort of thing, but the sun is flipped. So now the sun being flipped in charm casting, from what I understand, and everybody's different, you have to come up with your own method, but charms being flipped over doesn't necessarily mean it's the negative of the card, although it can be, but it can also be something that is coming up, that's not quite come to the surface. And so I like this, that we have the garden and the tower in because those are 2 very different things, right? That sort of idea of social and community and such. But then we also have the tower, which is that sort of step back. And I do think this is also, there's a lot of community stuff in terms of the truth and story, just in terms of social media and all that kind of things like that can come with the garden that is in some ways a little bit in conflict with having the time to step back as well and recenter, because I'm definitely the kind of person who needs that kind of downtime. And so that I think is quite interesting, and sort of, I guess for me, what hits with this is when I kind of get that back in balance, that's going to allow the sun to then come back into play. So that's something that is a reminder to me that pops out. I do also see right here, there's this little configuration that's right here. It kind of jumps out at me. And so for me, the sand dollar, if you look at the sand dollar, it has a, get it to focus. I don't know if that's focusing, but sand dollars is a 5-pointed star like a pentagram, which is to do with the elements, the 5 elements. And again, that's flipped over, right? And so we have that sense that balance with the 5 elements is a little bit out of sync or not pulled to the surface or in fruition. And the key to kind of getting that is my camera charm, which is about perspective, gaining new perspective on the journey. So this is metal thing says journey on it. So we have that idea of the key to getting things back into balance is to get some perspective on the journey, get things, I can't do everything at one time. And so I need to sort of, figure out a way to do it a little bit more balanced and with less stress on myself, which I have taken steps to do. Like I was trying to put out a card comparison card every single day, and as other things were starting to pick up, that was difficult. And so now I'm trying to get them out consistently, but I'm not beating myself up if they're not out every single day. So those kind of making those sorts of calls and sort of getting some more perspective on, okay, you can only do so much, so do what you can do and do that consistently instead of getting so stressed out about the specifics. So that's quite a good message for me. Those are just some things that jump out. And again, you can do all kinds of things. So you can go here to look at the work card. And I do kind of like how this idea of the collective unconscious is overlapping it, because, my work does a lot to do with a lot of tapping into that and that connection with other people. So I do quite like that connection's there. We do have the sharp kind of, not so much the sharp end, but we have the blunt end facing this little conglomerate around me of this. This is kind of like my scythe card, and it's kind of, this is my kick in the butt end of the scythe. So the top part of the scythe for me is like a kick in the butt. The sharp end is like kind of a cutting something, and then the back end is that kind of harvest sense. And so this is kind of pushing me in the butt to take care of this that we talked about at the beginning. So I do quite like that that's there as well. And so that what you can do is walk your way through, I'm not going to go through this, a ton, because I want to show the other ones, but this just kind of gives you an idea how you might cast it. We can also see there's a lot going up on the upper half of the board and not so much on the, let me scroll back out. Oops. There we go. See how it's much lighter down here and much heavier. So I've got too much going on up here, which is causing me to obviously feel a little bit overwhelmed at the particular moment. So that's another thing that you can look at. You can also look at past, present, and future, although I don't always do that. I do kind of look this way a lot more than the other way. So anyways, I just want to quick show you that, how I might particularly use it like this. And so now I'm going, and you'll probably notice that there are definitely some other, I've added a couple charms in, and I'm actually missing one that I really love. I had a little tiny arrow that I absolutely loved. But when I went to go and have it charge out in the moon, it was so tiny it fell through the grid, I think, on my patio table. And I don't know if Isabel ate it. It's small enough where she could have, but I can't find it. So I'm now on the hunt for a new arrow because I quite liked that. It would really point at things that were important. I still have to meet my daughter later for to look for bird cages for her bird, a new bird cage for her birds. And I think I'm going to stop in at Hobby Lobby and see if I can find something. That bugs me. Okay, so I'm going to give this another shake. And so now I put in my thing for the grand tableau. Now there's a couple things I could do. I could go through and just pull out my Lenormand charms because I have a charm for each Lenormand card. And so I could kind of narrow things down a little bit, and I have done that, and I do actually quite like that. For the sake of time, I'm just going to, because I also do it with all of them. So that's just preference. I'm going to do this one for somebody else who asked me to kind of, has made a pretty major change that the Lenormand has been telling her to make for quite some time, and she has not listened. And so it was kind of funny because it was just the same things would keep coming up over and over because she hadn't made any changes, and she knew it, and she laughs about it too. But she has made some major changes, and we want to kind of see if things are going to shift for her because of that. Although I am also going to use that, I'm going to use that for a Kipper card, Grand Tableau. But I'm going to go ahead and cast this just to get a quick look instead of going into depth. Okay, so here, the first thing I generally do is look for the woman card. We have a lot piled up here. Right, and again, some of the things, you know, some of the casting part of it, I am still working on, because I find, you know, if you get too close when you cast, you know, they are going to kind of clump, and you don't really want it to be, you know, you clumping and just staying right in the middle. So I'm kind of still a little bit working on that, and I do better actually when this isn't in front of me, because I cast a little bit more this this way. Well, it's still kind of down, but I do something a little bit different when I don't have this in front of me, and I feel like I get a more natural spread than this one that I just didn't feel very natural. So in fact, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to recast it, because it just didn't feel natural. It felt like I just like slammed it into the middle, and of course if you slam it into the middle, it's just all going to sit right there. So, take two. And I'm going to leave that in. I could just cut that out, but I'm going to leave it in because I do think, you know, these are trying to also show people who are getting their own sets together, excuse me, kind of the things that you want to think about. Shake. I'm trying to move it back behind so it's not so loud. Oh, there, that felt good. Even though it did go all to the top, which is, excuse me, even though it did go all to the top, which is also appropriate for her. But so on this one, I do like to still look, where is the woman card, because this is a woman, and she is in the ship. So I do quite like that, because she has that's that sense of movement, and she wondered if the movement and the decision. Oh dear. Okay, they're paving my apartment driveway, and they just came to make lines, which that is really actually kind of cool. It's like this little machine that almost looks like a lawnmower, but it has a paint end on it, and he is just like whipping through making the lines. I don't even know how he knows where to make the lines, because my driveway is kind of a strange configuration of parking spaces. Anyways, I'm going to pause this for a moment while he finishes. That's pretty cool. Okay. I'm not going to lie, that was kind of cool. Okay, so back to this. I do really like how we have her in the ship, because this is you know, the ship is about movement, but it's long-term movement. It's something that's going to, you know, go on for a while. And that was part of, and she'll understand that concept, because that is to do with that sense of her being wondering if it was going to stick, or if she was going to stick with it. And so I definitely get that sense there that she is going to. And I do also like this, well, here we have, well, there's a lot going on here right here, but we're going to just look in this travel thing. So we have her, we have the fox, which is me, you know, often to do with about duty. It's not so much to do with the deceit and things like that you come across with, I want to say, in the French tradition. But for me, the fox was, you know, I just think about fox as being somebody who does what they need to do in order to get things done. So that kind of idea of the fox in the hen house. Yes, there's a fox in the hen house, so she's trying to feed her young. So it's kind of doing those hard things that people don't necessarily like, but that are necessary, and being willing to do that. And so that is definitely appropriate to the situation. We also have a number 1 up here, which I think is quite interesting, because we do have that sense of the ace and sort of a fresh beginning and a fresh start. So I do like that. And this is appropriate, but I'm not going to say. I'll say that to her separately. So we have that. We have the scythe, which is kind of, I consider this, even though this is, I don't really technically, I guess the ace is outside of the grid, but it all feels connected because it's actually touching on her, so I consider that. We have the scythe up here that's totally outside, but it is on the harvest side. So we have that on the harvest side of the hook, which is really quite interesting because the hook is about being caught in something, but it's got the harvest side of it, so it's more that idea of harvesting or taking something off the hook. If you were harvesting a fish, you'd be removing the fish from the hook, and so that is also appropriate to the situation because I definitely get that sense of her getting herself off of the hook that she's kind of stuck herself on for a long time. So this is all quite appropriate for her, which I find to be quite interesting. Over here in sort of the messages, this is the rider card. We have the number 6. So you have the number 6, 5 is a number where you often see in tarot of conflicts and things like that are going on. And then 6 would be that sort of reconciliation. And so that's certainly a good, she's kind of reconciled the things that needed to be reconciled. You get that idea of it. We have sort of the mandala, which is sort of my inner peace thing that's flipped upside down, and we also have that idea of listening flipped upside down, and we have basically what I count as the death card. The lightning bolt, or kind of like the tarot tower, not the Lenormand tower, but the tarot tower, or the death card, that sort of ending of things. And so there's sort of an end of not listening, I get, and an end of not having that inner balance because there's starting to be some resolution here. So I get that from that little chunk that's right there. We can actually go, I think this is quite interesting also because in the house of the house, which is where your stability and your security is, we do have a heart, right? With the heart, which is obviously to do with romance and connections and things like that. It is flipped upside down, and there is a dice in it that's not on any side. So I feel like that idea of, okay, this is going to open things up to chance, open things up, which is, again, being careful to not give personal information, but this is actually a message that she really needed to see, because one of the reasons she needed to make this decision was because she was keeping herself on a hook, and that was, sort of impacting her options in terms of relationship area. So I'm going to pick this up. I wouldn't normally do this, but I quite like this because, the back of the heart, or the front of the heart, is like that, but when you turn it over, it's sort of opened, right? And then the dice, of course, I'll never quite get it back right, but you saw it before. But anyway, so it just seems like it's open to chance now. And it's on top of that sort of interwoven collective unconscious, tapping into the people around you in all the ways that we're connected with people that we don't even realize. And so I feel like that this really opens up her opportunities. And again, this is appropriate, but I will give that to her personally. So yeah, so that aspect I think is really neat there. I also like that in the position of the tower, which obviously with Lenormand is that, not the tarot tower, it's that stepping back and sort of having time to yourself, and that's where she's going to have her transformation. So the butterfly is here, that sort of transformation, which leads to the discovery, that sort of seeing things differently and viewing life differently. So with those kind of connected together, see if I thought there was something. Nope. Thought there was something underneath there. And now I got those all messed up. Oh well, I'm not going to go in too much further, but that really popped out there as being quite important. So I like that. So there's a lot going on here. And again, I will take a snapshot of this and discuss this with her more personally, but I just wanted to show you how so all I did was take a piece of scrapbook paper and I just sort of gridded it off, you know, so that I had, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. I did the 4 rows of 8 and then the 4 at the bottom, and then just, you know, wrote in the numbers and wrote the names of it in right on the scrapbook paper, and then I could just pop it in here, and then here you have sort of that aspect to positions, which is kind of what these inserts are doing, is giving us positions to touch on. So I quite liked that. So that's another way. There's a second way that I've been using charms. And then put this one back in here. And this is the third one. And again, I've got some ideas for other ones, but right now these are what I've been working with. So this one I could use to cut just a sliver off because it's a little bit snug. A couple of papers aren't exactly 12 by 12. But I quite like this particular piece because of the corners. It just kind of looks very finished, even though I'm not the neatest of drawers. But so here we have air and fire and water and earth. And so we have these quadrants here, and then as I said, we have sort of the superconscious, or the heart that's connected to the divine, or however you might see that, as well as the inner human, or the subconscious, and then the outer conscious area. So again, I can use these just as quadrants, or I could also just use the circles, or I can use a combination of the two. So I'm going to come back here a little ways and shake this thing. I'm actually getting ready to do a Lenormand reading for somebody. And so I'm just going to cast this as sort of a general. Let's just see some maybe focus areas that I'm going to focus in on with the Lenormand, depending on what we have here. And this is to do with work and career and that kind of thing. Okay, this completely fell out. So the lilies and the harmony card, there's kind of my harmony card, is outside. If I'm doing just these circles here, these things that are falling completely outside of the circles, I don't count those if I'm doing just the circular aspect. But if I'm doing the elemental aspect involved, then everything in here counts. And in fact, things that are like this that are off kind of here and sticking out are important. So we think of the number 4 in terms of balance and our foundation. And so the foundation in terms of the issues revolving around work could have a lot to do with transformation and creativity and sort of bringing a new energy to the situation. And we also have a number 1, so we need to get a fresh beginning on the emotional aspect of the situation, because it's kind of snowballed to that point where it's very stressful and overwhelming, and we need a kind of a clean slate and a fresh start in terms of the emotions, because we also do have the cross card, or the burdens card, that is also in the standing out in the realm of the emotions as being, okay, pay attention here, that we need to pay attention to this because this is causing a lot of distress. We also have the clouds in the emotions, and so that is also indication that there, we just have a lot of indication here that there is being distress caused by this situation, and that it just calls for a new beginning and a reminder, the conscious reminder, because this is in the realm of conscious, so we need to consciously and make a decision to understand this idea that this is all the journey, and that right now everything feels really crappy. It doesn't feel like anything is working out, but we have to kind of refocus on the fact that this is part of the journey and what can we get from this. We also have a conscious decision to kind of align the elements that we have here. That I think is quite, because that balance of elements, see how the cloud end of my cloud, so this is the bright side and the dark side, is at this balance. And so there is a imbalance there that's being clouded, and we need to kind of bring some clarity back to that particular situation, the situation surrounding work. Obviously, because this is work, we definitely want to take a look at the anchor charm, which is right here in the middle, and it has the camera flipped upside down on top of it, which is, for me, is to do with perspective. That's maybe there's a loss of perspective. Again, how you deal with things flipped over, for me, it can change depending on whether it's on top or underneath, what the two charms are. It's sort of one of those things that you just kind of work out for yourself. But the way that this is on top of the anchor and flipped over just gets that, again, that message of we need a new perspective, which is why, she obviously came for a Lenormand reading, is to get, which I will be doing. So I'm just kind of using this as almost like a opening of the keys in tarot, like a way of kind of, okay, what are some things that we need to zero in on as we're going into the Lenormand spread. And so that, I think, right there is quite interesting. And this is also in the unconscious, this idea there may be unconscious issues, emotional, and then the work of this other important thing, because again, this particular backdrop or whatever that I'm using for this, this is to do with the realm of the emotions, and the work situation has landed itself squarely into the realm of the emotions, where it really probably shouldn't need to be, because there is certainly, in terms of the question, there is that sense that emotions are running high, stress is running high, and so all of this to do with work has landed itself into the realm of the emotions, instead of possibly, say, into earth, where it's going to be more stable and steady, or even into fire, where you have some transformation and some movement and things like that. And so there is that sense of needing to get some clarity and get a step back from the emotions. So that, and even if you look at the tower, see, here's the tower charm. So there's that sense of, because the whole thing is to do with work, so is that sense of we need to pull back from the realm of emotions and step back into the creative, or into the mind, and start thinking it a little bit more logically here. Actually, I had that, and that wasn't, so I think I said that all to do with wands, which it is not. That is to do with the realm of the mind. So this idea of the stabilizing, number 4, that sense of foundations needs to be built in the mind and not in the emotions. So I think that's quite works personally even better than if it had been over in the wands. So we have that here, because look, we have, it's even just visually, we have a little bit going on mentally, and we have a lot going on in the emotions. We do have a lot going on in the earth center too. We have this whole down here. But that just kind of gives you that idea of, because even when you just still can think of this idea of things above and things below, and there's a lot of stuff going on underneath the surface. So that's just a really quick way. You're not having to go in and really do every little thing, but it is, again, this idea of using one way that you can use this to get a kind of quick snapshot of the situation before going into, say, a tarot reading, or into a full grand tableau with a Lenormand reading, like I'm going to actually do with this particular client. So that's another way. And of course, you could go into a full reading with this, but I'm trying to keep the time down. So that, I just wanted to come on and quickly show you a couple ways that I have been using, and a couple of these inserts and ideas of ways as you're building up your charm casting system that you might want to think about that might be useful for you. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I wish you a very, very, very lovely day.